Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Atlantic Bushcraft Adventures. Tonight, episode 332. Thought we'd talk a little bit about packing your backpack for a hike. Now, we have talked about this at short through several videos, and I went back and checked this. We talked about selecting a backpack, but we've never really talked fully and full-heartedly about how you put your stuff in your backpack for like traveling long distances, because there is a method to the madness. You can make a short walk incredibly miserable with a poorly equipped pack, or sorry, a poorly packed backpack. Or you can make a very long hike seem significantly less effort with a properly packed pack. Did that come out right, Ben? I said pack way too much.
And unfortunately, I mean, there's a lot of conflicting information out there. And the problem is none of it's wrong. Or some of it's definitely wrong. Most of it's not wrong. It's just different people have different philosophies and they have really good points. And what you have to realize is these are suggestions, and you have to come up with something that works best for you, for your type of trip, for what you want to prioritize. So is it comfort or convenience? Which are not necessarily the same. Packing for comfort and packing for convenience won't work out exactly the same. One's going to be more comfortable for your long hike, but that means getting things might be inconvenient. The other's going to mean getting things are really convenient, but it's going to be a little uncomfortable because the weight and the load distribution might not be optimal.
And that's where a lot of people really, I don't want to say struggle. That's where I see the most problems with people's packs that I've taken into the woods is the proper weight distribution. Where do you put what in your pack to go in there? And the big thing is, and even how to put the pack on your back. Because another big thing I see there's a lot of people choking it up too high, so a significant portion of the weight is on your shoulders versus, getting a good hip strap system and dropping some of that weight down. And let's talk about that for a minute before we talk about how to get the pack in there, as long as you're good for it, Ben.
Sure.
Why do we want to take the weight and put on our hips? And I'm setting you up here, and hopefully you run with it, with where I was going. But I'm confident. Why do we want to drop the weight down, Ben? What's the benefit of taking said weight from the shoulders, which most people do? You put a pack on, you cinch it up, everything's on your shoulders. Why would we want to drop that down for a longer hike?
Because it's a lot more comfortable in the long run. Once you get it done right, it's a lot less effort. If it's on your shoulders, that's going to wear you down. Your shoulders are going to get sore really quick. It puts the pressure across more of your back. So because you're carrying the weight up high, it's where your hips are designed to take the load of the rest of your body. That extra bit is not as much of a big deal. Problem is, it's really hard to transfer weight directly to your hips because we're not necessarily designed to transfer that. That belt helps. If it's an uncomfortable belt, though, you're gonna find that, because you don't want it across your belly. You want it on your actual hips. So finding a good hip strap, it has its own struggles. Like finding a good backpack that fits you, you want the right things. So a hip belt is important, but if you have a 1-inch hip belt that goes all the way around, and I've seen packs, like smaller packs especially, that have a very small hip belt, it's absolutely useless. You want something with nice big padding that you can really cinch in, right?
And not only that, something you said previously is wearing it too high. That's actually, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's something I see significant, and what I was guilty of too. I loved a hip strap, but I always, when I wear my pants, I wear my pants high comparative to somebody else. I wear them slightly above the hip versus on the hip or on the waist, whatever you want to call it. And as such, I wore my backpack the same way. And the reason I liked the hip strap was only because it kept the backpack from basically slapping against my spine. It didn't really take any of the weight off it. But once I got a decent backpack, like you said, still not a great backpack, but a decent backpack, it spans out at the back and then comes forward with a 2-inch strap, and I got that set down on my hips, I realized how much of a significant difference just dropping it down a couple inches really makes. It takes it from the lower, like the lumbar of your spine, which that's, when people are like, oh, my back, that's generally where this pain is coming from. And you're transferring, ideally, that weight below that section. So you're taking a significant amount of weight off that. And as Ben said, that's going to make you walk longer, faster. Well, maybe not faster, but longer, more comfortable. I think ideally, rule of thumb, and maybe you're better at this than I am, Ben. Ideally, 60 to 70% of the weight should be on your hips, and I'm talking ideal backpack that fits you good and all of that.
Yeah.
Anything above half, I think, is great, but ideally, it's like 60 to 70%.
Somewhere in there, I don't remember the exact, like everyone probably has different numbers. I think I may have even heard as much as 80. I don't know how you would do that necessarily. But yeah, you want to transfer a lot of that weight onto your hips, right to your legs. Think about it, the shortest distance to where that weight needs to go, the sort of an advantage to it. But if you put it on your ankles, being the lowest, you have to pick that load up every time you make a step. So you want it somewhere that's going to ride pretty level. You don't want it bouncing around. The more steady your weight is, the less it's pounding on you. Think about anything as you're walking. If you're doing a lot of this, every step, when you want to walk pretty smooth. So you want to picture parts on your body and just kind of imagine that going along that line. What stays pretty level? And like your knees and stuff are moving, even your shoulders to some degree, like you have that going. Your hips do stay fairly straight. Like there's probably a bit of a wave, but not a tremendous amount. The rest of your body is working to keep sort of your head and your hips kind of straight while everything else is kind of moving around. Your arms are going, your legs are going, and you're moving through the woods and up the trails and climbing. You want to keep that pretty steady. So if you have a weight that's bouncing, it's kind of hammering on you all day long. If that's hammering on your shoulders, it's just pounding you down each step, right?
And that's just it. And that takes a surprising amount of energy. Not only does it cause all the compressing injury and stuff like that, and just the pain, but it takes so much more energy because every time that backpack bumps you, you may not notice it, but you're making little corrections on your feet to stabilize like Ben said, you're stabilizing that weight using your body instead of stabilizing it against your body, which is a good lead into my next point here, is when you're packing your pack, generally, and this is my rule of thumb, maybe it's different for Ben and we're going to find out, heavier items I try to keep lower and closer to the spine. That way it doesn't bounce as much.
Actually, and when I think about loading a pack, if you think of it, some of the school packs, especially some of the ones that used to be really packed, and they were kind of triangular shaped. The further down they got, they sort of went out. And you look at some kids walking, and the pack is about 2 to 3 times thicker than the kid's body. And the rear weight is sitting probably 18 inches away from them.
Yeah.
So if you think of it from the flat of their back to the 18 inches, that's a lot of leverage. That's going to be uncomfortable. You want to keep that pack really as slim as possible and spread across your back fairly evenly. And then, like you said, that weight sitting against your hips. So if you have thicker, big, thick packs, you look at a good hiking pack. Every good hiking pack kind of looks thin, tall. They're kind of tall, maybe a little wide. You don't see them being thick. You don't want that thickness because.
And sometimes you'll see them contour to a spine. Like you'll see a little hoop to them usually coming in, and that's to get it in against you. Get that weight tight to you. Less bounce. Better center of gravity if you're moving around on the trail and stuff like that, stepping over stuff. Like Ben said with the leverage, if it's further away from you, think of a fulcrum and a lever, which is what Ben was talking about there. The further you tip over, so if you're walking and you got to step to the left, now all that weight is hanging off your body and pulling. It takes so much more effort just to upright yourself. And once again, the first couple of times, you're probably not going to notice it. Ben and I are both pig-headed when it comes to bowling through the woods and put ourselves through a lot of misery. Learn from our mistakes and the things we're just too stubborn to change. But if you can get that in close to you, it does save you a ton of energy just walking around. Like I said, you don't notice it the first couple of steps because it 50-pound bag, 40-pound bag, 30-pound bag, whatever you're carrying. For a guy like Ben or my size, it's a good chunk of weight, but at the same time, we can throw it on and run without really noticing it for a good deal. But if we take the time and properly cinch it to us, we can go for so much more on the same amount of energy. And I guess that's the big point on packing your pack correct. So if you can get that weight into you, anything you can do to make it more centralized and stable saves you all of that energy going down the road. Just a shout out to Steve and Eric here. Apparently, Steve, oh yes, I seen that. Yeah, good news for people over here in Nova Scotia. Most of the woods bans have just been lifted today, except for Annapolis Valley. Not sure why the world hates them, but anyway, sorry folks, hopefully it comes soon. So yeah, he just got himself a new frame pack. Haven't packed it yet. He's excited to do it because the woods are open. Um,
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Ben.
No, I mean, we could actually talk about frame packs in a second, but I mean, there's some really good advantages and some minor disadvantages you want to keep in mind with them. But overall, it's about keeping that load very stable and keeping yourself stable. And when you're hiking, rather than when you're just walking along, say, a groomed trail or along a sidewalk or in a mall, you have a pretty even ground. You're not worried about balance all the time. But you're hiking, you have uneven ground. You're climbing a lot more. You're descending a lot more. And so your center of balance is extremely important. And so if you have a high and an off center weight that's constantly working against you, that means your whole body is working harder to stay upright. And you don't, like I said, you don't notice it, but it can be extremely tiring and uh, it can actually lead to a lot of injuries. And I think that's the
Absolutely.
real thing is you're much more likely to A, fall or B, strain something if your load is extremely against you. And by that we mean like too heavy, too much an angle out. So you can carry a ton more weight if you can carry it really close and centered than if you carry a lighter weight but it's really far out. And if you want to test that, pick up your phone and hold it right close to your chest, and you can probably do that all day long. Throw it out to the end of your arm and see how long you can do that. And you're going to find that phone gets really heavy after 2 or 3 minutes.
No, absolutely. And when we're talking about balancing as well, it's not just getting the weight in close to you, it's balancing it out in your pack. Don't jam something heavy down on the right side and nothing on the left side to counter, because then the whole time you are struggling on your left side. And the other point that I had that I forgot about and I want to backtrack just a little for is improper packs can cause long-term damage down the road. Like that's where a lot of spine conditions, sciatica, compressed discs, things like that, it can all be accentuated and exasperated. Hopefully I got those words right. By
Yeah.
things simple like this, especially if you're doing long tours. You know what I mean? Like when I was 20, I didn't notice it. Now that I'm in my 40s, I notice it. You know what I mean? And it takes significantly less for me to notice it. Hey, Danny, thanks for joining us here. I thought this episode was postponed. It is. This is Thursday night, Danny. It's not Wednesday, bud. Yeah, so anyway, I just want to give like a quick mention on that. Try to balance the weight out as well. Do you want to talk about that frame pack before we get into how to segment some of this stuff? Like I have a couple other thoughts on this. Just tips and tricks for packing your bag in general, I guess. So, yeah, why don't we talk about the frame packs, and then we'll go into that.
So, more recently, internally framed or frameless packs have become more popular. And by more recently, I mean the last 15, 20 years even. Prior to that, everyone had a framed pack. And the framed pack, like the original, like old frame packs, they hold everything very steady. Like it's a very solid thing. And when you put that on, you can carry all kinds of loads quite differently. And so there's still some really nice frame pack kits out there that are probably the top of the line, in my opinion. There's a couple that I've been craving after for years. And if I got into heavy game, like large game hunting, I would definitely have one for that reason alone, packing out meat.
Thank you for the reminder. Hold on. I actually have something that we can use for this. I just bought a new pack for hunting, and funny enough, comes with a rigid frame.
So, yeah, and so I remember my father had one. It was an aluminum framed one, and it had an orange pack on it. And so you can really secure your load inside those. And now the newer ones are internal frame. Those are fine too, because you can get them even closer to your back, where the original external frame ones do sort of hover a little bit off your back, which is really good in the heat to keep you cooler. So a lot of things. So you got some stays in that one?
Yeah, so there is a rigid frame in it. It's only a rigid frame. It's not an actual full frame. So rigid frame is like a hard piece of plastic, kind of composite, goes in the back. This does have the swoop out for the small of the back, but this is what I want to show. It's the nice padding. You know what I mean? Like that is, it's hard to pick up on camera, but that is good 3/4 inch padding, as well as the hip straps. Look how wide those are. Like comparative to my hand,
Yeah.
we're talking like 5-6 inch straps that come to the front of my hips to distribute that. So this pack here, for what it is, it's meant for, you know, it is a hunting pack, but it's also meant for carrying like a firearm on the back of it or strapping down quartered game. So it's designed properly to hold the weight and stuff like that. It's really great. Anyway, that's all I want to show was the hip thing. I knew it had massive hip straps on it, and that's why I picked it up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Here,
so... Oh, sorry, go ahead, Ben.
I'm gonna send you something maybe you can throw up
Sure.
if this will work in a second. Yeah.
It's going to be on this one.
I swear to God, they keep moving this. Yeah.
So anyway, well, Ben sending that to me, just some ideas for packing your bag there. So any emergency supplies, so pills, first aid, bug spray, sunscreen, all of that good stuff, try to keep that easily accessible. There's nothing worse than packing all that at the bottom of your bag, and then you have to empty your entire bag to try and find something simple. But things people don't think about and tend to get buried down there a little bit more is a nice pair of dry socks on top, because once you get to camp, there's nothing like throwing some dry footwear on. Maybe a fold-up cap, if you had to see the ones that Atlantic Bushcraft here sold once upon a time. Those are great to throw on top because it's easy to grab and put on your head. But yeah, like the bug spray and sunscreen are the two big ones that people are like, they just throw them in the bag and, oh yeah, they're in there. And they get in like 10 minutes and are like, oh my God, I need to take my pack off and dig all this out and try to find this, that, and the other thing. Toilet paper is the other big one. You don't want to have to go digging through your bag to find toilet paper, not necessarily for using the washroom, but just if you want to use it because you get a cut and you want to wipe something off or just wipe the sweat off your face, use it as a fire tinder. You'd be surprised how good having a little toilet paper at your fingertips will aid you when you're out in the woods. I've seen that flash up, so I'll see what it is there, Ben, see if I can get it up here for you.
Okay. So one thing with a lot of what you mentioned there, in some instances, to sort of save space and kind of weight, you can separate this stuff out a little bit so that you have a small set of like emergency set that's quickly available. And then if you want to carry extra stuff, you can put that in another container that maybe is a little less accessible, but at least not as bulky, which makes it easier to have that stuff. So say you're taking a handful of painkillers, maybe you got a small squeeze bottle you can put sunscreen in and you can refill it from a bigger bottle. Anything like that you can minimize. I don't say you should carry a lot of extra stuff, but sometimes you can minimize larger containers and items into smaller ones so that are easier to access. And at that point, you may be able to fit it all in. Is there a pocket in that belt?
Yeah, in that in these straps, that was the other thing I liked. They came with 2-tier pocket systems, so there's nice for quick grab access stuff. So even something as simple as your cell phone, like that's a nice big pocket. It would probably hold a full bottle or can of bug spray. So you can imagine the little things you put in that, like Ben said. Small bottle of bug spray, small bottle of sunscreen, a little fire kit, some duct tape. Fold up some duct tape there. If you get a blister or something, you're not digging through looking for the rest of your big first aid kit to put over a blister or something like that. And there is one on the other side as well. Plus, there's a couple of smaller ones located through the shoulder straps and things like that for those cut down items.
But yeah, so say you're going for a week-long trip and you take regular medication, maybe some vitamins, maybe a couple of, I don't know what you might have, so I don't want to indicate. But if you do it up in like little daily allotments, you can put them in little Ziploc bags, little like dime bags, whatever you want to call it, and make those really accessible, and then pull one or two out and keep in that pouch. So you can just have 1 or 2 days supply always available and keep the rest. Because at night when you're fully set up and have everything out, that's when you can reorganize some of that stuff.
100%. Okay, I got that frame up, or I don't have it up, but I'm about to put it up if you want to talk about that. So we're on full screen. Frame's up.
So when somebody says full frame, that's kind of what I'm thinking about is this style one. And you can I'm trying to have it so I can see it too, but that's fine. I kind of know what they look like anyways. But yeah, these are really good because if you're going to carry a heavier load or a sort of something different than you would normally carry, you can strap these things. they're very rigid. It gives you a lot of abilities there, and they can be, in fact, actually the Alpine's a little bit lighter weight than the alternative packs because you can only carry what you need to with these.
I was gonna say, do you have any experience with these frames? I know. Oh, somebody just retracted a message. It has a steel frame. So Danny just picked one up that has a steel frame. He said it was an 82 military pack from his nephew. Was it something like that, Danny? Just out of curiosity. But anyway, Ben, for you, have you had experience using these open steel frame packs, and how do you find them for packing?
No, I did. No, one I did was one my father had, and it was not exactly like this. Um, you have to get the straps and all that right for it to be comfortable. So, um, his, I think, and this is just the quickest one I could find. So I'm not pushing this brand. If you look at the bottom part, this one has a strap that goes across. That'll sit against your back. The one he had a wider band, and that's what sat against your back, and it did have the hip belt. So with that, you can make it comfortable. So a lot of them, you can get a whole yoke system, and that's what you want. One with a good yoke system that this attaches to, and then this allows you to attach different bags, bigger bags. So I know there's a really cool one out there that's sort of like a Molly system,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't have to carry the whole pack. You know what I mean? Like you carry the pieces you want, and you can distribute as you want. It makes it a little bit more accessible.
That's kind of
So
neat.
that's
All right, so we are up, believe it or not, to 21 minutes. Some quick tips and tricks, because I know each of us kind of have our own way that we throw some stuff together, but we also have very common ways that we pack things as well. And I think the big one that we've mentioned in the past, and I know you do this as well, is you kind of compartmentalize your items either through either bigger Ziploc bags, dry bags, which is a favorite. But anyway, so for instance, your clothes would go into a dry bag and you put that into one compartment. Your toiletries and things like that, that's another bag, that's one compartment. Your cooking supplies, that's another bag, that's one compartment. That way, instead of rifling through all of these items, you can pull out a bag or a compartment and be like, all right, I need my cook kit. It's in this bag. I will pull out my pot. Here's my spoon. Here's my stove and my fire striker. Bam, all right there. You're not digging through an entire pack to look for these things. It sounds simple, super overlooked thing that you can do that just makes things so much smoother.
so there's three things I look for when I'm packing loads. How heavy is it? How important is it to be accessible quickly? Like when am I going to get it? Is it something I'm accessing 4 or 5 times a day, or is it something I only need when I set up camp at the end of the night? And the other thing, how bulky or awkward is the item? So bigger, bulkier items, regardless of weight, kind of have to be placed in a way that it's not stealing all your space and stuff. So think about like a foam mat. That's kind of like, it doesn't have a lot of options. So you can strap it to the outside of your pack, or you can put it inside your pack. But it's due to its length and shape, you're kind of stuck with 1 or 2 spots. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I try to get my heavy items, like you said, low and close to my back. But take food, for instance. That's something I'm going to be accessing a little bit more frequently. I try to distribute that evenly, and then probably ends up in pockets on either side, somewhere that I can still keep it low but accessible, because that's something I need often.
Absolutely.
And beyond that, I try to pack the things I need the most in the most accessible spots, and the things I need the least can be buried a little bit deeper, harder to get to. I love like what you suggested. I do, use the bag system. I know a lot of people don't, but I love to have my clean clothes in one bag, my dirty clothes in another bag, and then, like you said, toiletries. I have things go together. Cooking stuff go with cooking stuff, things like that. So when I need something, I can reach in and say there. And if you can, color coordinate it.
Absolutely. And I can hear some people saying, oh, that's a luxury that's not needed. You're making it more complicated. But you really aren't. It makes things so much more organized when you're in the woods. Yes, you don't need to, but it just makes it so much easier when you get there to know what you're looking for and where to find it.
When you're organizing at the end of the day, like if you have a system and it's the end of the night or the end in the morning, you're up and packing, or even in the night, you're trying to set up. Being able to look at a bag and know exactly what it is and where it's to is really important. And when you go to leave, Knowing what goes in each bag means that you don't forget anything. And there's nothing worse than getting to the next site or getting home the next day and opening up your bag and saying, my headlight's missing, or I don't have the pegs I had, or you're missing something, and then you have to replace it. And you spent time and energy finding that perfect piece of gear, and now it's gone. It's not always easy to replace.
No, not at
Sometimes,
all.
some,
Sorry, go ahead, Ben.
sometimes it's expensive, and sometimes it's simply no longer made.
I was going to say, sometimes you just don't get it back. I guess another tip that I have for some people is at the very top of your pack, and this is where I like to keep it, usually like at the very top lip that flips open, there's a little pocket there, drum liner. An orange drum liner, if you can put it there, because it becomes a poncho, it becomes a waterproof cover for your backpack, for anything you need. Emergency water container. I just find that having a drum liner, well, not even a drum liner, just a nice big garbage bag. Drum liner preferably, but just some sort of large plastic bag, it's going to get you out of a lot of situations. Because how often have you been walking through the woods, starts to drizzle a little bit, and you might have your windbreaker or something on, but you're like, oh, you know what? My pack doesn't have a rain cover or a rain fly. Just pull the bag out, throw over it. You're good to go. Or at night, you know what? Ground's a little damp. Maybe you just throw your pack inside the garbage bag, tie it up, hang it in a tree, nice and dry. You don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. It just comes in handy. And I know lots of people have told you, bring a drum liner. Absolutely. I try to keep it easily accessible because I have been walking down the trail, pulled it out of like a hip pocket, punched a hole in it, and bam, poncho. Never even broke stride. Know what I mean? Put it over myself plus the pack.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, it's in a nutshell, but that is kind of it, right? Like,
I guess one thing I'd throw in here, and I'm curious about your opinion on this. Try not to stack your pack too high. I see a lot of people like their sleeping bag. Oh, it goes right to the top of the pack and it's banging against the back of their head the entire time they're walking. Like, it's just a sleeping bag. How bad can it hurt? But we're back to that. If it's constantly hitting you and you are constantly making micro adjustments, it's going to wear you out. You're going to get annoying. Try not to pack your pack over your shoulders. That's what I like. Anything above that, it's just going to become a hazard, my opinion.
strap everything in your pack and onto your pack should be strapped down secure enough that it's not swinging around or able to hit you or get tangled in things. Any of your strings should be tidied up. Unfortunately, I have 3 daughters, so I'm able to steal hair elastics, and I take a hair elastic, I roll up the cords and then or the straps, and then put a hair elastic over it, and that keeps things really clean. They're lightweight. You barely notice them, and they're dirt cheap. Like, I mean, the kids have bags of them around the place, so they don't even notice when they steal them.
Now, if you want to throw a couple bucks out there, folks, you can actually go to like Walmart or any big box mart and go down to like the sewing aisle, and they make these perfect little elastic loops that if you're willing to take all your straps apart, you can put in that do the exact same thing. They're fancy, they cost more money, they're harder to put on, but it is an option.
So, I mean, I usually take a few spares in case one breaks or whatnot, but it is useful for a lot of things. Also, how I can organize my string together, like make little bundles and whatever, and just throw one of those around. Or I wrap it around. I do a tie I have. But either way, keeping that load secure so it's not bouncing around. Nothing. If you have a bag that's too big for your stuff, it's not gonna sit well. Now, most good bags allow you to strap them down so that they hold the load really nice and firm, right? And that's what you're trying to do. Pull it in, pull it tight, and keep it balanced. Keep it, like I said, heavier stuff low and close, and then lighter stuff can go out the back. So that foam mat, if you had to, you strap that to the outside on the back. It weighs ounces. You won't even notice that. But if you did the same thing with your tent, because your tent probably weighs 4 or 5 times as much as that little foam mattress, that's out there is going to weigh a lot more. A lot of people will strip that stuff down. Take your pole, strap that to the outside. Everything else gets balled up and stuck inside your tent or inside of a pocket or something. Consider that too. Yeah, breaking up sometimes you can break up some sets just to make it a little bit more comfortable. Some things don't have to be together.
I had a final thought, and I can't remember what it was. But I get... Sorry, what was that?
I said, shit, I broke your thought.
Yeah, it's fine. No, it was there and it was gone just as fast. But I
What are
guess,
your
yeah.
bulkiest items?
Sorry?
What are your biggest, bulkiest items that you struggle to pack well?
Generally, it's going to be, for me, sleeping bag. It's always the biggest thing, or the underquilt when I was borrowing it from you. Between those two things, those are the things that usually hang on the outside of my backpack, and I can't get it inside the pack. For me, that's the bulky stuff because the hammock and tarp, it's pretty small, it can go in. Everything else seems to have a spot in the bag versus those things. And for the sleeping bag, I generally use those loops that are on the bottom of most bags, strap it in there and cinch it up. That way it's nice and close to the bottom of the bag. Sits down around bum level for me. But then the underquilt, when I was using it, borrowing it from you, I found it just kind of ended up dangling off the back of my backpack.
So me, a couple of items that I have found I struggled with. My Agua Cannon, I think the 21.
Yeah, it's a little longer, and I remember you showing me that one time.
It didn't fit in most of my packs in a comfortable position, so it ended up oftentimes in like an external packet strapped to the side, and the hood just going over the top of it. A couple of other items that I've struggled with. I have an ultralight, relatively chair I like to take.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I have one of those too, but I haven't actually taken it in on a hike yet. I use it more for work than anything.
Well, I have taken it on a hike, and mine's almost wore out now. It doesn't pack well. It's not. It often is strapped to the outside or off to the side. It's not something that I found a great solution for. So there are things out there that you kind of look at, like, is it worth taking, considering the effort sometimes it takes to properly pack it, or the room it takes to pack. So I'm always looking for better solutions. I spent the other week looking at other chairs because it's one of the items. So things like that can be a struggle. So when you get those items that are the most difficult to pack, make sure you think about that when you get your next pack. Sleeping bag is a bulky item, but it's a very flexible item. I can stretch it long and thin, or I can force it like into a ball shape. But usually I end up like forcing it around other things so that it A, helps secure them, and B, just distributes the bulk throughout the pack a little bit better. One other quick thing is, if you can, try to put something soft between you and the heavy items.
Yeah. Chafing is a real thing.
It doesn't have to be much. A pair of folded up pants or something like that, sometimes across the back section of your backpack, if you have something hard and lumpy that might be pressing into you. You don't want any hot spots. So that the heavy stuff should be low and close to you, but not so close that it's injuring you. And that's the advantage of like those full frame packs. You can usually keep everything off of you, but still really close to the back of that pack.
No, I agree. And just saying, we had Matt joining us here for the first time in a little while. Welcome, Matt. We are to the tail end here, so I think that's where we'll wrap it up here tonight. The big things, I guess my 3 points or couple points, I don't know how many this is going to be. Main takeaways. Get a pack that fits you. Make sure that it's adjusted properly. Pack your heaviest items closest to you to keep your center of balance. And pack your emergency items, or the most common items you're going to use, where you can readily have availability to them. And my last one, as we mentioned, was compartmentalize. Works for me. I know it works for Ben. Might be something for you folks to try too. What about you, Ben? What's your takeaways from this for us? I know I sniped most of them from you.
No, I mean, it's sort of what we said. I mean, I try to keep the packs, keep it as light as possible while taking the comforts I want. And then I really think about each of my pieces of gear and how well does it pack? Where is it going to sit? And how much do I need it? I recently got a relatively new pack, and the beauty I like about it is super thin.
Yeah,
right?
I really like that one. 100% waterproof too.
It is super waterproof. It doesn't have the hip belt, so it is more of a day pack. I think it's a 20 liter, and I've been using it as a daily commute on the back of my motorcycle, and it can take a surprising amount of stuff. I took a summer trip with this year. Packed all my clothes in it. I was able to go for the summer with pretty well just that.
Nice.
So.
Well, all right. I think that's a good spot to end up here tonight. We're at 35 minutes. Might as well stay in. I knew this one was going to run a little long because we are both passionate about packs. Thanks everybody that joined us here tonight. Of course, we have Matt, Danny, we have Steve there. I think I seen, Eric was popped in at the start there. Thanks for joining us, fellas. I'm gonna save that. You might see another release later on from me from Atlantic Bushcraft Adventures. Ben knows what I'm talking about. We were talking about right before the podcast, but I don't know when I'm gonna tip my hat just yet.
Not at all.